Bonjour, bonjour.
Hey,
I can't do that here with the big square. It looks funny. I need more people to do my data butlering.
While we're waiting, Sam, did you hear most of the call?
I heard some
When
of
you
it.
off-
I was going to make one final statement for Barry, but I'll wait till he gets here.
Yeah, that Wikipedia thing is quite fascinating. And it was almost a documentary.
Okay, is that everybody? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Was there anybody else that wanted to come into this?
Alex will probably come, but I didn't stay long enough to
Yeah.
see if he was.
Carl, I'm sorry I didn't realize you had an issue that you intended to bring up. I just completely missed it.
No, I was actually wanted to kind of be in the white hat mode and stuff, but I need to take about a 5-minute break or so. Need to do some tech, my sister and some other things. So I'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, Carl.
Meantime,
Yeah,
you
I've
tell me
never-
what white hat means and red hat means, because I don't know these.
Yeah,
terms.
that link, I'll go find it. Can you just put it to it there quick, or no? I'll go find it. It was his presentation for barn raising, and it had to do with the 6 hats of sort of system thinking.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that. Sorry, hadn't heard of it.
Yeah, red hat, blue hat, white hat. Blue hat's for the data. I think white hat's overall. It's sort of just different perspectives on.
Carl just put it in, and
Yeah.
This is the best introduction I've seen for the Optima training and stuff that kind of goes through is the scenario of facilitating a meeting using it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the main purpose.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll have to review that later because it's a video.
It's a more nuanced version of Robert's Rules of Order, I guess you could say.
Oh, and
Not that
was it
there's
Stacy?
any not that there's any correspondence between Robert and the hats, but a way to organize a meeting.
Okay, I think Stacy asked about Robert's rules yesterday.
Yeah, no correspondence, and just the hats actually are a way of distinguishing that you are in a different mode of thinking, which is a kind of really resonates with,
Yeah.
the idea of having slider, if you brought up a new slider deck for treble, right? Or in sound recording. Anyway, I won't get into all these analogies but there's different nuances that you have to appreciate depending on what the hell's going on, right?
It's sort of like plaintiff, prosecutor, judge, jury, and executioner, like different roles. And what I experienced was that one party wanted to play all the roles.
yes, one party wants to play all the roles. That sort of ties into what I have to say.
Right. That was, I thought, how can you have one person be the judge, the jury, the executioner, the accuser, the prosecutor.
Well, only if you're an agile team of one, right?
That seemed a little bit sort of antiquated, anachronistic to my sensibilities. But that's the way it was. God Kings. God Kings and their minions.
There is, early on, I wrote a big rant piece and I was almost embarrassed.
I'm getting off the call. It was.
Don't get off, Stacy. Carl's coming right back.
Here's the thing. And I wanted to say it nicely, and I didn't know how to go about it. There are certain people, I would not expect somebody to ask me for my opinion on which mapping tool is the best to use, because clearly I don't know. Now they can ask me to try out both and give me my experience. That's one way to engage me, and I think that's a good way to do it. But otherwise, I am not the person that should be speaking on that. So for example, I specifically prompted Doug to point something out, which is not, and I did not take it, Colin, the way you did. I'm sure from Barry's perspective, it can feel like your performance is being, critiqued. So I get that for the person sitting in the hot seat, but Barry handled it very well. You, on the other hand, seem to have been more, I think you related to Barry being in his position.
Very much so.
But wait, right. Okay. Doug was not projecting. Doug was saying something that he saw without judgment, but trying to bring something into awareness. You, however, stop, I'm speaking.
There was some belittlement I saw.
Speaking. You, however, were projecting. Now, you
Yes.
just acknowledged that you related to him emotionally.
Mhm.
You were projecting. Now, and this is not, I don't mean this to sound insulting, but, and I'll put, if I wanted another person's opinion of what I thought was going on inside of somebody emotionally, I probably wouldn't ask Barry, and he knows that. And I wouldn't ask you. Because for me, hold on, I'm still speaking.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I might ask Sam, you know, what did you think of this? I would ask Doug what he thinks of it, because that's an area. And again, it's just my opinion, my judgment, whatever. But that's an opinion that I really want to hear what he has to say, because there's something, I might not agree with it, but that's where I want to start from. I feel that, especially in this past call that went on, after everybody speaks, you sort of give your opinion of what it is they just said. And I don't know how to say this nicely. I know it sounds harsh, but I really don't care sometimes. And
That's fine. There's
But
nothing wrong with you not caring.
Alan, I'm not done.
Go ahead, but you're going on with a bunch of points. It's okay that
No,
you don't
it's
care.
one point. It's one point that I'm
You're
trying to make.
interrupting.
The
Well,
point
I'm being
I'm trying to
Hold on,
being
make.
you're
scolded.
interrupting.
I'm being scolded
Hold on, you're interrupting.
because I feel
Hold on,
manipulated
you're interrupting.
on purpose.
Hold on, you're interrupting.
You're interrupting because of your interrupting before. That's the point.
Can you listen to someone make a statement without interrupting, please?
I truly wish I knew how to say what I want to say without like making you feel hurt, because I'm not
No,
trying.
I'm not hurt. I think the
Hold on, you're
statement's already been
interrupting.
made. I
Hold
think
on,
it's
you're
already been made.
interrupting.
Okay.
That's
you-
fine.
so
Make
what-
the
so
statement
what-
again.
You are interrupting.
All right.
You're interrupting, Sam.
Colin, you are interrupting. Stacy's not done speaking.
I might regret this, but since you think the statement's been made, can you put in 2 sentences what I'm trying to tell you, or what the message is that I want you to hear? If you can't put it into 2 sentences, just say I can't and don't do it.
You're interested in what Doug had to say, not what
Wrong.
Tom had to say. That's what you said. So let's talk about that first. If that's
Okay,
what you're
part
not,
of-
if that
Yes, okay.
Okay.
So in part, that's true, yes.
instead of giving me 20 scoldings and then have Sam say, you're interrupting.
Okay. I mean, you got half of the message, that in that one particular area, I'm not really interested in what you have to say. But I was also observing the faces of other people, and I don't think I was alone. And again, my intent is not to hurt anybody or insult anybody, but I feel like.
I'm not hurt. We all have different ways of looking at things. Go ahead, say what you have to say.
Let me ask you, do you think that you're a very good judge of what somebody else is going through emotionally when it's not something that you directly relate to? Because obviously, if it's something you directly relate to, like how you would feel had you been in Barry's position, of course you can give a good opinion of that because it's coming from your experience. But would you say that you're very expert on knowing how somebody else might feel?
Actually, quite the opposite.
Exactly, and I agree with you, and that's my point.
There's my yes. Well, no, that's not the point. There's an and. Yes, and, right? So I'll agree with you like you like. But the point is that I don't think I'm an expert, and that's why I'm being vocal. Now,
But-
Maybe it's the fact that I don't understand. Maybe it's the fact that I don't understand is what you don't care about.
Wrong. I do.
Because
care
I'm
that you
asking my
don't
questions. I don't understand why Doug would say to Barry, what you're looking at is to be a battler. And then all you're looking for is the big prize at the end. Like I could see, like in my sense, what he's saying about Barry makes Barry seem quite trivial. I don't think what Barry was doing was at all.
All right, Carl's hand is up. Carl, while you're getting on screen, I just want to say one thing. Colin, that question is good. It just didn't belong in that conversation. We could have it at another time.
Yeah, that's
Carl,
fine.
go
And
ahead. Let Carl
I
go.
really believe, yes, Carl, but I believe the secret to this, Stacy, and this is the whole point, is that you let the tape play, and then we can do a retrospective and pause the tape and say, what the hell was he trying to say right there? And if it's not important, don't bother. So do it or don't do it, but don't pretend you know what happened.
All right, let
You have
Carl
to ask
start.
questions. Warm data. Go ahead, Carl. What hats are we wearing?
So I'm just going to describe it, and if I'm not going to get respect, I was asked to join this to talk about stuff. So if I'm not going to get respect right now, then I'll drop off. And you two need to talk about this offline as far as I'm concerned.
Me and Colin you're
Yeah.
talking about. Okay, well, let
I
me
don't
just.
want to hear this anymore.
No, that's
I joined
absolutely,
to talk about what I wanted to talk about.
okay. Well,
You know,
Carl,
because
let me-
you invited me.
okay, so maybe I should clarify. I asked for this call because I wanted the opportunity to bring this up with Colin. That's why I asked for this call. I would like to hear the hats, not necessarily, I wanted you to just be here for this to give any input that you had relating to the call. That was my intention. So I'm sorry if you misunderstood that intention.
Would you call that manipulation, Carl?
Don't go there. Let me talk for 5 minutes and I'm getting off this call. And maybe people will actually look at stuff. And then I don't need to do this next week. It's a longer term thing. People need to watch the video. People need to look at the believing game. And then we can have a conversation. If it takes 3 or 4 weeks, fine. Now, the main thing I was trying to say a year ago was that there's this thing called the believing game, which challenges the scientific method is only being half the picture. It's the doubting game. And then there's this yellow hat, and the yellow hat, nobody talks about the believing game, but the yellow hat, I think, is the believing game. So if we would facilitate a meeting using the 6 thinking hats, then talking about the believing game, and get some people who are trained 6 hat facilitators to actually facilitate the meeting, and they are managing the meet. They are facilitating the meeting, and because if you had a trained facilitator, Doug is to some extent, but so that's basically the point. So let me see. I'll go ahead and put some more links in the chat like I was doing earlier. And then if people actually want to engage in a conversation, then we can.
Well, thank you, Carl.
Carl, where's the blue hat in this picture? I think it's blue. Maybe it's gray.
Well, I think the big point I missed is that he wants to emphasize the yellow hat of the 6 hat paradigm and maybe go through it, but it's the contrast to the science.
Yeah, just want to say I'm unfamiliar with the 6 colored hat model. This is all new to me.
And when he tried to explain it to us in barn raising, everybody just got into missing the premise, and it just went
other
off the wall.
cultures don't like the color red. Who gives a F? It was supposed to be the meeting where I was at least trying to get something. If you look at my Facebook, I've been trying to get the believing game talked about since 2012, maybe another decade. it'll happen, but
I'm prepared to take it up. I just never heard of it before. Sorry.
You
yeah.
got some passion.
It's Edward DeBono, who's like developed the lateral thinking. He deconstructed the thinking process, saying that we have 6 modes of thinking, and he assigned metaphorical hats, giving them colors to differentiate between them. And then his premise was that you can facilitate a meeting, but everybody agrees to wear the same hat at the same time and stuff. So red hat, in fact, if you look at the thing, red hat should only get about 5 minutes. If you want to actually, but they're different. My take is they're different dynamics, and sometimes you need to have, stuff. And that's why I didn't say anything, because you and Colin needed to be wearing the red hat today. And I respected that. So I just added a bunch of stuff in the chat to what was getting brought up for me in the conversation. So that's what I did today.
What is the name of the red hat? Is that the battle hat?
That's there's some different things. That red is emotion, green is creativity, and those usually kind of pair together. And then you have a yellow hat, and
I'm sorry, red is emotion, green is what again?
Creativity.
Creativity.
And then the black hat, which is basically the only thing we wear, is critical or safe. I mean, there are different things, and it is needed. But the yellow hat, what I like about the video I did is it's because it gets into the logical structure and stuff. Now, the other piece of it is there's the compendium software, which is open source and hasn't been funded, so you can't run it on a modern machine.
What is the yellow? I didn't get the word. Yellow is
optimism, basically. So
optimism?
Optimism. So
okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of the opposite of the
critical
of the black hat.
Okay.
And then there's the blue hat is facilitation, and the white hat is just like sharing knowledge, unbiased. Just here's the facts or whatever, and you don't get into whether that's a fact or not. It's about information.
3, 4, and that's 6. Okay, unbiased knowledge. Okay, I have them written down, so that's good.
Yeah, and that video is amazing. That's kind of the video from that Optima training is like the best concise explanation or introduction I've seen to it. And then the other link I put, there was actually a whole journal that was dedicated to the 6 thinking hats. There's a whole bunch of different things, including one connecting it with Dr. Zeus, I think. So we could take a look at that, have a conversation, and then have the kind of meeting I wanted to have. I'd rather see it happen like in several weeks. I mean, have people look at some of the articles, particularly Peter Elbow's one, and then and we can have some sidebar smaller Zooms, and then have it be a barn raising probably is the place where it makes the most sense. Or it could potentially be like a Friday one, since I don't know what the Friday stuff with Gertrude was kind of
Yeah, that's not experiments, that's mentoring of some sort.
yeah.
Yeah, I've tried to get the Friday experiments going. I've been doing my own experiments lately, Carl, and I am aligned with your thinking. I'm aligned with Barry's thinking and I call it, my brand of craziness is called Fair Conversations. And I think everything you're talking about is the conscious tools to involve yourself into the best or fairest conversation you can have. There's so many different models, and Barry has a lot to offer in this area as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
Carl, is the blocking issue that this subject was not discussed in Sunday Unblocking? Is that the issue? Because I'm not familiar. I mean, I know about Edward de Bono, but I don't recollect this from his book.
yeah, he has several books. He has a six, the six thinking hats is one of the major things. And there's actually a whole facilitation method around it.
Okay.
And things. So what we could have like a small,
Seminar on this?
or just to have some Zoom meetings over the next couple weeks, some small.
Okay, that's fine, because this is new material for me. I'd love to learn about this.
Yeah, it's really important stuff.
The thing with the Friday experiments is that if you want to involve Sam, he's going to be at a later time zone. So some of what I've been thinking hasn't caught on yet, but to have several experiments happening during whenever, it doesn't have it, but we called them Friday experiments, but I've been thinking about doing a morning and an evening thing, but if depending on what you're doing and why, you might want to do it twice. I would say record what you do once and then, but again,
Right.
do you think there's any value at all at going back and seeing what happened? Like, I think that's a whole different discussion, or could it be a use case?
If people want to go back and look at it, I don't know. That's the one that got. I think that might be the one that got derailed because it got into a. I think it was actually, I think it was you and Jazz
Al.
and I
Oh,
started
Jesus.
playing the Monty Python argument clinic. Like,
Oh yeah, that was great.
no, it isn't. Yes, it is.
You haven't paid enough money.
Yeah, so it was that. So I think that's since that was copyrighted Zoom.
Yeah.
I know that took a long time. Sam's the one who could say how long it took him to.
Actually, I was going to search for it. Maybe I'll do that now.
Did it ever get uploaded to YouTube? Because there was one that was missing, or two that were missing from August a year ago.
Yeah, that might be one of them and stuff. Because as I said, don't try to record. Don't try to show a recorded thing and within a recorded Zoom. I think if you weren't recording the Zoom, it would have been okay. But it was you were.
Yeah, I don't believe I attended that session. I think I would have remembered it, but I had no recollection of that, and I couldn't find it on YouTube either.
Yeah, it was Heiner and yeah, there was a couple people. Yeah, you were on that too.
No.
Okay.
I've just been I don't remember being on it. I was raising my hand to ask Colin. He's streaming to Twitch live right now, I believe. Is that what's
Not
going on?
right now, but
Not right now. Okay.
I can. Here we go. Oh Jesus, Sam,
I
you
just
look
want to be
scary. This is it.
Is that the
Why does
session you're
Sam look
talking
scary?
about?
Fuck.
Unless Sam cleaned it up, don't show it.
Did I die? Did I die? Is this it? Is this how it happens?
Is that Sam?
I know. It's fucking shaman. Oh, Heiner, don't pronounce me dead. Stacy pronounced me dead.
I was just bringing up if you're streaming to Twitch in the future, if things want to be taken down,
You can.
yeah, I'm just, that's what I keep trying to say is we got to be careful when we're pressing record. I mean, publishing is a big deal. We really need to have a good conversation about where, when we publish and consent, so that we're all in agreement.
Let me say the F word 100,000 times. Okay, I'm done. Continue on. Next.
I'm done too.
No,
I've said it a million
It's so
you need to
true.
keep
So
speaking
fucking
up.
true. We've had this conversation 100 times.
Yep.
So definitely I wasn't there. Josh wasn't there in August a year ago. This is unfamiliar territory. to me.
As I said, this is something in fact, I don't want to rush it. In fact, that was part of the problem. It's like,
Mhm.
why don't you do this next week? And then people didn't have a chance to look at anything ahead of time. So
Right,
it needs to have this is something that needs lead time.
right. And
Right.
you posted a link to a video, which we're not be able to watch while we're in a live Zoom call.
that is part of the problem of what getting ready means. Are we
Yeah,
ready to invest?
If you're not recording, I think you could show it, but we'll do that offline, just a couple of people who, and then stuff, because there's also planning stuff and to get to this point, which everybody knows, sometimes you want to have a meeting that's not recorded, to have
Yeah, yeah.
strategy, something called strategy. So
Sam,
Well,
I'm gonna go ahead and drop off now.
well, thanks a lot, Carl. I'm going to paste a couple links if you want to the video, if you want to hang on and then save the chat.
All right.
Sam, tell us what is in the YouTube that you just posted the link to
It's Carl's presentation of the 6 hats.
from August a year ago, the one that I've never seen.
It's approximately August 22nd of 2020.
Okay. August 22nd,
Yeah.
2020.
So
And
that's
it's
the link
Carl's
to the video.
presentation. All right, I'm sure I've never seen that.
If I remember correctly, I know I missed that one and I tried to watch it because I think it was up. And the point I'm trying to make is I was not able to learn about the 6 hats from watching it. So that's why I think what Doug said was correct, to let Carl start fresh, because there was just, again, my recollection isn't great, but there was so much argument and other bullshit that I couldn't learn what I wanted to learn. So I don't know if it's worth watching it, at least not for that reason.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, that
I
link's
was gonna
mangled.
say the whole session got so derailed that, yeah, I don't think there's much worth to it. The important thing is the links that I've shared now, the Optima training, 6 thinking hats, and then having a conversation about looking at some of that believing game stuff and which article would we even want to read and talk about and stuff. So as I said, this is something I'd like to see a series of conversations, at least the first 1 or 2 not recorded. It's just having a planning session for something that would be a formal recorded session in probably mid-October.
The other thing I was thinking, Carl, I don't know what you think of this, but I was thinking if you had, I don't know, 6 participants, but in a fishbowl, just to kind of eliminate.
Well, part of it is I want to have at least one person who is a certified 6 thinking hats facilitator. I think that's part of what that's something that needs to be engaged and be recorded and stuff. But yeah, as I said, planning sessions, there's dozens of details that need to be talked about the best way to present this stuff effectively in a recorded session. And then that would I would see that either fitting into something on a Thursday, or maybe it does fit. I mean, if it's of the structures we have now, it does fit into a barn raising, potentially. We were looking at doing some, whatever we want to do to look at facilitation methods, because this is just one example of a facilitation method.
Right. I was going to ask you about that, as it's a tool. Go ahead, Josh. You got your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we can practice different methods of meeting and communicating too, because with the video is one way. We've got the new virtual, I'm steeped in the VR, AR space. So you can meet on Microsoft's meeting teams just to practice having different formats for meetings that might bring out other nuances. And also I noticed Doug's been playing with the Otter AI to have the transcript during the conversation. So maybe we can also start, bringing some new tools into the practice. I just wanted to bring that up. And
Zoom's transcript that they've got, they're licensing some kind of Otter Lite is actually, so Otter is,
yeah, Zoom bought Otter
a
while back.
Yeah.
So that's there. And I've proposed, the Clubhouse used to have, you have to be invited to come onto that platform. Now it's open to everyone, Android, iPhone, no invite needed. And that's another one to allow other people to enter the conversation. You could put up a calendar on Clubhouse and say, we're meeting for the 6 hats, and people that are really interested and can explain it more, I like that platform because it draws in people that are already steeped in the understanding of the six hats.
Yeah. And so exactly that's part, I mean, that's been what I've been looking at for years and stuff. And so it's like matching the technology with the method. So if we have anybody who can run the compendium software with the issue mapping, then that's a whole point. That's a whole place where you could have that too. So there's several pieces to it, but we can talk about that more as
Yeah. And I just want to share with you, Carl, they linked Zoom with Miro, the flow charting mapping software. And I do believe that there is some sort of interoperability between the brain where you could export out into a vector-based space like Miro and then link that to Zoom so people could in real time collaborate on a whiteboard.
Right. Yeah, there's a whole lot of things. So yeah, as I said, I don't want to take up time with or what people want to do with the like continuing a conversation.
Yeah, well,
Other
that
topics.
was my question. That was my question when you announced that you wanted to you said your piece and you wanted to leave. Like, was that because you wanted to leave because you didn't want to follow the previous conversation, or you didn't want to continue the conversation? Because I think you want to continue on.
If it devolves back to the previous conversation, then I'm dropping.
People really don't like to be asked questions, I find. So how you ask somebody a question really matters. And that's, my biggest hurdle in this group is to decide when I want to become unconfused and how I'm going to do that. And so back to your point, you've got a method of, it's not really conflict resolution, it's focusing on analyzing, right? But it can mediate conflict resolution, perhaps a little bit, but let's not go too far into that idea.
Right.
It's sort of a process or a tool in that area of meeting facilitation. And so what container you put it into, or what tool, what application, so it's not a finished product. So you're saying I could bring a facilitator who knows how this works, and that would be one container I could put it in barn raising. Okay, here's the container I find that works. I hear your frustration. I shouldn't say works. I find that it's where I'm pointing to now, knowing that you can't do it in barn raising. Okay, you just can't do it because that's not the way it works. See you later, Josh. You make demos. So you said you've already, produced a lot of information. You got a whole bunch on your website already. And have you ever demoed a facilitated conversation, like recorded it and showed it and tried to
that was going to be one of the proposed next.
Yeah,
but
that's it. You demoing it.
The issue was that wearing the yellow hat and focusing on optimistic, logical conversation is what could diffuse this stuff, and we could actually have a productive meeting. But as I said, that's
Well, did you see what Doug said about being interested in seeing what happens, but not necessarily being interested in the tool? Because he's got his own way of doing things. So I find that I'm already set up for, the analogy we had was the rowboat in the current. And you have to, and this is Barry's analogy, and you have to point the rowboat in a trajectory to take into account for the current, or you'll never hit the shore, or you'll be, rowing extra and in circles and whatever. And
all
that's
right,
the deal.
well, it sounded like Barry, I'm going to have a meeting probably one-on-one with Barry, and we'll talk about stuff, but I'm tired of you. I mean, just stop. You're wearing the black hat and you're derailing the conversation.
I don't mean to. I have a question. So the question is information from you. So in that process where you get into a conversation and that kind of a framework where it's not going to work, how do you indicate that it's not working? And that's what I'm saying. If you did your own demo, you could control those in the production of the message, so that
that's why I want to identify a trained facilitator that knows, that can wear the blue hat effectively and rein in people when they start going off into the red hat or the black hat and stuff.
That's great.
But that's what you need. You need to have, there's a whole certification process that the De Bono group has. And there's a whole group of people. I think they're the one people I had talked to years ago were based in Iowa, but you know, it's like following, and that's why I said there's multiple steps to this that needs to, whole planning thing to set something up where it could be an effective enough meeting to really show the capability and that could be recorded. I wouldn't want to record another session like last year that completely derails, because I don't know how to.
That's what would happen.
Yeah.
Maybe not as bad as before. It's getting better, but so those are two pieces of information that I've been trying to bring from my message, because you can't just bring it in to that space and have it unroll without having it pre-packaged and ready as a demonstration.
Right.
Number one.
That's what happened last year. It's like
Yeah.
I said I had
Number two.
Oh, why don't you do it next week? And then
Number two.
Even looked
Number
at the 5-minute video that I did post, and then
I did.
everything, you know, derailed from there. But I don't. We don't need to rehash it. I don't.
No. But the other thing is, if we want to actually give respect to the idea of giving you respect and your idea for the ask that you have, I'm looking at having a simple way in the group to go to a Trello board and say, okay, Carl's going to do this. These are the prerequisites if you're interested. And, you know, and then that card could progress, like you say, over 5 weeks. That's the missing piece in the group. There's no continuation. It's all surface level, smoothing the fucking stuff over, and then declaring that people don't understand because there's no nuance. It's just fucking insanity.
Right.
Yeah. But it's a lot of good people, and I think we do care. And I take what Stacy says to heart. I do, but we're different people, right? So how can we get together with your facilitation method? That would be interesting. Maybe Stacy would be willing to do that, because I don't feel I'm standing or trying to block her, against her in any way, other than try to hold on to my own rationality. Whatever hat I need to do that, I guess it's black most of the time, right? So that's a hard place to be.
And everybody varies and stuff. Obviously, you're red hat and black hat today, which is great. Sometimes you need to. People need to vent. That's almost what we were. That was almost what we did with Gertrude's thing. It's like who's like the brightest.
Yeah. Well, also Stacy and I last time got into it a little bit in a positive way about this idea of believing. So the idea is the yellow hat that you want to focus on, right? The believing game, correct? And that is the one that is the partner to science to get full spectrum of reasoning. You can't get full reasoning with science alone.
There's an article that Peter Elbow is a professor of English emeritus at Amherst, and then there's almost an entire journal issue that was devoted to it. So as I said, I'll talk. I mean, it's having a conversation. It's looking at that link. It's like, how do we develop at least, can we come up with like a 2-pager that people could actually look at that gives them enough to engage in a conversation or something along those lines. So yeah, as I said, I'll follow up, and you know, as I said, something to get on the calendar for like mid-October probably.
So if I understand, Carl, your position is that the yellow hat, the mediation, is where we have a shortfall. We're not getting good enough mediation in these conversations. They're going in the directions that you call red hat and black hat, and not enough yellow hat mediation. Is that right? Do I have that right?
Right. Yeah. So as I said, I've known about the method for years. I haven't been able to ever experience it. So that's been part of the problem. And so
yes, I agree.
we have any method, and I think we need a whole series, like Josh was starting to say there. I mean, we need a whole we could almost have a whole track where we're saying it's like, hey, there's this whole science called this, there's whole art called facilitation, and there's all these different methods, and maybe we work on having that. So this would be
Yes.
a thinking hats, you know, meeting. We could have a, you know, I mean, there's so many methods out there. So
How to have fair conversations, really,
yeah,
and frame them.
There's a whole crucial conversations environment too. So as I said, I'll have a conversation offline, and you know.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, way back in January, Stacy and Sam proposed a mediation session, and we initiated the session, and it went off the rails. It never got to
no.
mediation. It totally went off the rails. Red hat, black hat. And so, yes, I have a very well remembered failure of an attempt to have a mediation session.
There's several. I think another big point that Carl's saying is we all have to wear the same hat at the same time, so that we're not going cross purposes, and that doesn't happen.
Exactly. And organizations that have really adopted this, they've cut their meeting times in half.
Yeah, get on the same fucking page, would you?
That more than pays for any, like,
Yeah.
having a highly skilled facilitator.
Yeah. So how frustrating it is to try to have a demonstration about getting on the same page and not being able to get people on the same page. It's like,
Yeah,
it's meta frustrating.
yeah, I call it the law. There's a law of gravity and there's a law of irony. That's
Well, I'm glad you've calmed down. I hope you feel heard. If you want to get it done right, do it with people who know what it means to prepare. That's all I can tell you, and know how to write a list and follow it. That's it.
It's finding the right.
Because they're not doing that. They're not doing that right now. They're not doing that. I've tried to push Trello in the simplest of terms. What comes back is, oh, but you could do it so much better than Trello. I'm just saying, make a list and follow it where we can all collaborate. Like, yeah, just have an intention that I can see. Just anything. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Carl. Include me if you will.
Yep. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Barry. I don't know if Sam's around. He might have some final thoughts on this, because this is his wheelhouse too.
I think it's curious that the experiment that I hold as barn raising is difficult.
Insane. Insane.
What was the word, Sam? I didn't hear your word.
It's difficult to understand. Okay.
Difficult to
So in other
understand.
words, for people to say, let's have moderation, there needs to be an agreement that we all want that moderation.
Yeah.
We want
Right, that's why
agreement.
I said make it a Friday thing. It does of the things we have.
So I
existing,
thought I was speaking,
it
Carl.
would be barn raising. It would be the one, but then, as I said, I don't.
Carl, I hear you have a lot of emotion about this, but one of the things that I reflected on when you were sharing your feelings about this was almost everyone comes, presents, and then feels frustrated that they're not heard. Almost everyone, without exception. That is a smart people problem. Now, it is another smart people problem what you do about that.
Yeah.
All of us.
I doubt anybody was totally fucking disrespected by everybody in the meeting than me. And the one I tried. And as I said, and I even said that this doesn't make sense. People need to look at it. There needs to be some preparation. It's like, oh, you do it. And then it turned into a total disaster because people couldn't watch a 5-minute video ahead of time. But as I said, this is something that needs to be done. Not going to do it right this time, correctly this time.
So next week or week after, are you going to do the 5-minute video as a
No,
whole?
I'm going to do that completely offline. It has nothing to do with GCC. It's just going to be a couple people who want to actually talk about planning. So
On your Facebook page, you're going to do it? Where are you going to do it?
I'll host a Zoom meeting.
It'll be a Zoom meeting. Okay.
Yeah, but then it's not within the, like, maybe, as I said, we'll figure out what to do as far as, maybe you know, we've never had actually a facilitated meeting that I'm aware of.
Gertrude came closest to it.
But highly contained.
Except for the appreciators.
Yeah.
But that was highly contained.
Yeah.
There was rules, baby. There was rules there.
Yeah, she really moderated.
There's rules with facilitation method. Like,
Yeah. Well,
everybody's going to wear the same going to be in the same mode of thinking at the same time, or leave if you don't want it contributing to that particular session. That's all there is to it, you know. And then every method has a process. And if you're not going to respect the integrity of the process, then why are you there? You know?
good question. Trying to figure out what the process is a problem too. I find when there is no structure, and look at Alex, right? Reed, great guy, but he doesn't get it like you get it, that you got to go off and prepare it and then bring it back and do it. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to learn that. I think that's just a natural way to look at what needs to be done. People who come to the group and think that they can just lay it all out on the barroom floor, everybody's going to get it, and it's going to take like 20 minutes. They're delusional. Like there's got to be a Trello board with a list somewhere if you're working. And I'm saying that's usually offline. I would like people to have that mindset. And I think Sam tries to bring that to the group, that, you know, individuals working together, bringing things together, but not the whole group steering the ship at once. And I think that's what defeated you in some way, Jazz and Alex and other people. They come with the mindset that this is actually the company. No, this is the town square where people from different companies come and present. And Sam said many people from many companies that come presented and they leave frustrated. That's because nobody prepares or follows through in a way that Trello would easily show, with just 4 cards, right?
Right. I agree with you. So yeah, as I said, we'll as I said, I think whatever event we have will be probably mid-October. I mean, we probably need
Sure.
time to,
I've got lots of things I'm working on, but I really appreciate yours and Barry too. I put Barry in a category where he actually does produce and puts his effort where he puts his words. So I think the word for me this month is effort, and people who are putting effort forward. And to follow a Trello list takes effort. That's all I'm saying.
Good.
Thank you so much. And Stacy might have had something to say. She popped in. I hate to feel she's feeling ignored. Please
Oh,
come
no,
back,
I'm
Stacy.
listening. I'm listening.
But did we resolve the issues that we had this extension to resolve?
No, but that's okay.
I think we agreed
more,
to
Stacy?
disagree and take it up, take it.
Well, here's the point. I initiated this call specifically because I had something that I wanted to continue on that was misunderstood by you.
Yeah, 'cause
you
said
yelled
it
it.
right after I vented, so that's that. Yeah, I mean,
But do you realize you yelled at me? So when I listened to you talk about being disrespected, and I understood you were heated, so I backed off.
Because it was a natural thing that you said right after that you know, it was more than, I think it was more than thing that people
Why are
wanted
you
to
yelling at
follow
me?
up with mine. You didn't say you wanted to think you had something specific for an agenda. I thought
I kind of did.
You sensed my.
Why are you yelling at
and
me?
wanted to follow up.
Hold on.
Why are you yelling at me now?
Hold on. I got an important question. Stacy, did you say at the end of the meeting, Colin, are you going to be available? Or did you say Carl?
I said Carl only because I
Okay,
wanted
there
to
you
bring
go.
up
Yeah. Well,
my intention.
That indicated to me that you wanted to actually hear about my situation and what I had wanted to
Okay.
do.
And
That
like
was
I said, I'm
perfectly
sorry.
Natural assumption to make, as Colin just said, but
It may have been a natural assumption, which is why I apologize for the misunderstanding. What it was, not an assumption, is that you were there and I was going to bring up an example. And because you had been witness to what I wanted to talk about, I wanted to hear your feedback. But I understood and I saw you were upset, so I backed away. But now, since I was just asked by Barry if what I wanted was addressed, I'm being very straightforward. I'm saying not really, but that's okay. But I do feel that I didn't deserve to be yelled at, and you just did it again, and I don't understand
Well,
why.
when I get passionate about something, my voice raises. That's something I do try to control. But you know, I mean, as I said,
Try harder.
you said, Carl, I said I needed like a 5-minute break, and I come back, and it's you and Kyle,
Her husband.
continuing a devolving situation that needed to be taken offline. Now, if I
maybe you
known
think-
that's what you wanted,
I agree.
Now you know.
Offline.
Now you know.
Offline.
But now I'm going to make my point. I don't think it should have been taken offline, because I was bringing an example of what happens a lot, and we don't
I
always
didn't
have.
know that. I didn't know that. As I just explained
you know-
the situation to me, and then it was like, I thought after being completely disrespected last year that you wanted to actually hear what I had to say. And then I come in and it's you and Colin continuing the conversation. And maybe you said that when I wasn't there, but as I said, that you're the one who's you're the one who's disrespecting what my situation was.
Carl, can I try something here? Carl, what happened, as I recall it, was you said you had to go away for about 5 minutes. In that 5 minutes, there was some discussion that was intended to make that 5 minutes productive, as opposed to just waiting for you in silence for 5 minutes.
That's what I just said.
So when you came back to that,
and I
it
thought
was still going, okay? Now, I think people did wrap up on that and did give you a chance to speak, okay? So I'm with Stacy, you know, the heat that you generate doesn't invite her or others who, you know, may want to collaborate with you. It's not a very inviting attitude to take, to scream at someone who might actually be very open to hearing your positions and your thoughts.
I accept that completely, but as I said, I had one thing I had wanted to say. I would have been off the call in 5 minutes if I could have just said, here's some links, let's talk about it.
And I think that would have happened had you not just said, hey, I got to go back in 5 minutes.
Yet again. And as I said, I didn't know what happened. I said, you know, it's like you have a 2-hour meeting. It's like I needed a short break. And then I came back thinking we were going to eventually talk about what I wanted to talk about. And then I don't know if it had resolved. And
Eventually did happen. I finally got a
It did
chance to
happen.
ask you what was your issue, because I didn't know what it was.
if you had attended last year, you would understand why I'm upset.
I'm going to go back and watch the video, but I wasn't present in that session that Sam gave us the link to.
Okay, well, I do apologize. I didn't, you know, as I said, you said, can you join us? And that's how I interpreted it, was that people wanted to talk about what I had wanted to do last year. And as I said, I've been trying to do it for 12 years. So I'm apologize, but I had, you know, I mean, there was like 12 years of frustration in what just happened. So
I have one of Bono's books. So I'm gonna have to look to see if it's in there and I missed it or whatever.
yeah. So as I said, I'll have I got to go visit my dad. He's in a rehab center. He had broken his leg and stuff. So okay. Well, as I said, I apologize, Stace. So and whatever, as I said, I'll drop off now and have some meetings over the next few weeks.
May I say one more thing, Carl? As I recall, I mean, I may be incorrect on this, but when you were invited to give the talk at GCC Barn Raising, usually I present it as bring a topic and bring moderation. That's usually what I invite people to do, because we were experimenting with different moderation styles.
Yeah.
So I believe that my request would have been to bring the topic and bring your moderation. I was just wanting to say that's usually my request. I'll go back and, you know, it's probably good to review those meetings before your presentation just to see whether that invitation was actually couched that way.
Did you just
But I
hear
think that was the request. What?
I started out the thing wanting to show that video we started to show it, and then Heiner and stuff said, oh, people hate the color red. That the color, I mean, as I said, then the whole thing got derailed. I was trying to facilitate using a method that got completely shot down before people even looked at it.
So if you were actually a certified Six Hats moderator, how would you have handled Heiner?
I don't know, because I'm not that was my first experience. And I was actually just wanted to bring up the topic about, let's try this process out, as, and that was just really introducing a topic and things. So, and I had said, I'm not really ready unless people are going to, look at stuff or read, an article and stuff. I mean, it needed to be done. So yeah, I should have just not even tried.
It's a bootstrapping problem. You wanted to introduce moderation, but nobody had learned it yet, so you couldn't exemplify it while introducing it. It's a bootstrapping problem.
I was trying to introduce it. Yeah, okay.
Without having mastered.
I want to let Stacy continue with whatever she wanted to talk about. So, okay, so
Stacy, the floor is yours if you want it.
What? Did you say my name?
I think she's talking. I would have
No,
loved
did you
to.
say my name? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I said the floor is yours if you want it.
yeah, I was just saying, I was just saying, I cede the rest of the meeting to you since you and stuff. So.
Yeah. Carl's about to drop off. He said,
Yeah, that's okay. Let him do it. Good luck with your father. Okay. Sam, come back, please. Wow. So I just want to say, I am really tired with people thinking that their frustration gives them the right to be abusive towards other people.
yeah, I agree with that.
I was sitting here and I was like, if I reflected what was happening to me inside, I would have been crying.
Yeah.
And it bothers me that I held it back. I was really thinking I should just fucking cry.
Yeah.
Because people need to understand that they can't just explode and then say, oh, I didn't really mean it. And I do have compassion for how he felt, which is why I backed off. But it's just not okay.
Yeah. I get that.
And Sam, I appreciate you. I feel like you stepped in and that made it better for me. But I understand all the problems we have. I asked for this meeting. I only invited him because he was also there. I didn't say, let's have a call about Carl. I thought that had already been decided, that it would be at another time, possibly next Sunday. I wanted to address what I see is why we need facilitation in the first place. Not that we don't, but what about when we don't have facilitation? Let's look at those problems as they arise and how do we stop that? Yeah. And it wasn't, I knew before this call that it wouldn't be easy for me to say what was on my mind. And that was stressful enough, but I really believe it needs to be said. Yeah. So that's all I'm going to say for now, but.
I agree. I wish we had mastered facilitation back in January when you, Stacy, and you, Sam, had proposed a facilitation between me and Colin that night in January when neither of you could stick around, and I stupidly stayed connected to Colin until 2:30 in the morning with no facilitator present. That was where facilitation really was necessary. And boy, I tell you, I would have loved to have had a facilitated session there.
Let me be very explicit, okay? Look, all of us have been in business for decades, okay? Yeah. I've run lots of meetings, probably thousands, if not tens of thousands of meetings. I know how to run meetings. My actual relatively hands-off moderation style and GCC barn raising is because I am inviting people to see what happens without moderation.
Oh, yeah.
And make some agreements around it. And that's a subtle point that I think escapes a lot of people, especially if they're new.
Yeah.
Now, if we see repeating patterns of either blowups or derailing or whatever other, let's say, non-productive behavior we see, I'm hoping that we as a community say, maybe we want to do something about that. Now, I believe I've done that with focus. I believe we've had that general consensus around focus, okay? However, there's not been much else. There's been some movement, Brownian motion style, towards agreements, but even that gets blocked at times, okay? So focus, I think, is relatively safe. Agreements is not quite so safe, but it's getting there, but almost nothing else. And I'm waiting for these things to bubble up in appreciation so that we can then say, yes, it makes sense that we want focus and here's how we do it. It makes sense that we want agreements and here's how we do it. It makes sense that we want civil behavior and here's how we do it. It makes sense that we have follow-up with action items and accountability and here's how we do it. I would want that to evolve. But over 4 years, only 1.5 of those items has. It's really difficult.
Yeah.
I've never stuck around this long with any other group to try and see if this would happen, because usually what happens is somebody says, fuck it, I'm frustrated, here's the way it's going to work. I'm going to impose Robert's Rules of Order, or I'm going to impose adhocracy, or I'm going to improve sociocracy, or I'm going to improve holocracy, or I'm going to improve teal, or I'm going to do the blah, blah, blah. And somebody just fucking just says, this is what's going to happen. It never is an emergent process where all of us, in some sense, come up with that general agreement. Somebody eventually gets too frustrated and says, this is the way it's going to be. Leave everything at the door. I'm quoting Doug now, okay?
Yeah.
However, I've been really biting my tongue myself, because I've been tempted to say, well, here's how it's going to work. But I've really tried to resist that. So as an experiment, people come, bounce in, bounce out, saying, Jesus, chaos.
Yeah.
Okay, you said it, Barry. Colin has said it. Heiner has said it. Jeswinder has said it. Joel probably has said it. Many people have said it. But I myself personally didn't want to be that person that imposes that structure on all of us, unless we actually have rational discourse with enough participation and time to actually get that sense that everybody wants this. This is probably the central problem under collective intelligence. People get damn frustrated because it's not going the way they want it to go. So I could do that. I've chosen not to do that.
Stacy, you raised your hand.
Yeah, because so I agree with everything Sam said. And the pattern that I see that I'm trying to address, which can't be done on a Trello board, is that a large majority of the time when a conversation's being derailed, it's in response to somebody having taken something personally and feeling that they need to defend their actions. And that's what I'm trying, that's why I come here. And the reason I think there's a chance here is because there is a level of trust here. We genuinely do like each other. Our values in terms of wanting to do good in the world are aligned. And there is overall, you know, if you put the whole group together, in my opinion, there is a higher level of awareness. That's just my opinion, which I have a right to make because I'm the one making a decision if I want to be here. There would be another group where I would not spend my time. It would be a total waste. I haven't given up here. That being said, it's hard for a reason. And in the call that we just had before this, people were recognizing, you know, like even Sam put in the chat, you know, we're giving our power away to celebrities or however it is you worded it. What I'm trying to say is it's even harder to do it with people in our own group.
Yeah.
And it's hard to call somebody in our own group out on their own hypocrisy.
Yeah.
And I was kind of moved to do that, which is why I wanted this call. And it didn't go in that direction, and that's fine. Under the best circumstances, it would have been difficult to do. But it kind of needs to be done, but I'm just, it gets hard to feel like you're the, I don't want to be the bad guy. Nobody wants to be the bad guy.
Yeah, I would have loved.
Yes. Go ahead, Barry.
Go ahead, Sam.
I'm just reacting to your last two words there, Stacy.
The bad guy?
Yeah. It's unfortunate that you had to say that. And I understand why you say that, because most people don't take that candid feedback as an act of love.
Right.
See, people don't understand that, hey, if I care enough about you to give you some positive feedback, which you could internalize, you could use to reflect on, and if you choose to, alter some aspect of your thinking / behavior. That is an act of love if it's presented that way. Unfortunately, it's not usually taken that way. It's taken as criticism, it's taken as you're not as good as, you're not, meeting some kind of standard. It's taken as I know better than you, all of those negative perspectives. And that's really unfortunate.
And it's, look, it is hard to hear something about yourself that you didn't notice or you're not that proud of. That it is hard. We live in a society that makes that difficult.
Yes, that's why I say it's unfortunate.
It is, but it's also true. Like I kept saying to Colin, I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I'm not. But at the same time, I see similar things happening repeatedly.
Yes.
And I don't really see any awareness.
Yes.
That what you speak against is exactly what you're doing.
Right.
In general, we tend to
Hypocrisy.
see it's wrong when somebody else is doing it, but we don't see it wrong.
Yeah.
We don't notice it when we're doing it.
Exactly.
So I might actually then go back and reflect on why, at least when I present COI practices, it's with two people you trust and who love you or me. See, for me to actually, the general me, okay, to get that kind of feedback and treat it positively, I need to trust those people that are giving me that feedback. And I need to know that they're actually doing this because they love me and want me to be a better person. If I don't have both of those, I'm gonna just say, fuck you, okay? That's a typical response. Why do I need to take that feedback, right? That's a typical response. Who are you to be giving me some advice? This is why the COI was really, written succinctly to say at least two people you trust and who love you.
And just to point out, there's two scales of trust. So the one is that you trust that they love you and that they're saying it in your best interest. But the other scale of trust, which is what I kind of wanted to kind of express to Colin in a sense.
By the way, I heard you on
Is
that one.
that was the
I interrupted
main
you, but I did.
Well, you're not saying if you agree or disagree with me, but
No, I
my
do.
point, okay, good, thank you. And that's what I kind of wanted to have a conversation in a gentle way about.
Right.
Go ahead. So let me just finish the one sentence,
Okay.
because we know what we mean, but if anybody's watching this, I want to make sure they know. So the other scale of trust is that you actually believe that they have the ability and the judgment to render a really valuable opinion that you should then think about.
Right. See, the way the reason I say I do understand you, Stacy, is because I do say this a lot, okay? Trust, most people think of as a three-part statement. I trust you, okay? To me, that means absolutely nothing, okay? It means something only if there's a fourth element. I trust you to bring me eggs, or I trust you to bring me coffee, or I trust you to hold the secret, or I trust you to save me if I'm, committing suicide, or it's a number of different things about trust, but it's not just I trust you blanket. That means almost nothing, okay?
Correct.
I trust my daughter to make breakfast, okay? I trust her to take care of my dogs. I don't trust her to pay the mortgage. I know she can't, okay? it would be stupid for me to trust her to pay the mortgage. So if you have unjustified trust in someone, okay, to do something, and then you blame them for not doing something, like, hey, Ronnie, how come you didn't pay the mortgage this month, right? That's on me, that's not on her. And yet so much of this notion of trust is on the person that betrayed me. No, you misplaced that trust initially. That should be on you. That should be on me if I expected her to pay that mortgage. And so much of trust does not reflect on the person doing the trusting. It's so much taken as a negative on the person who was trusted. This is a reversal that really needs to be reversed. And it really needs to be explicated, in my opinion.
Explicated, I don't know what
Made
that means.
explicit. Really
Okay,
called out.
Revealed,
Because-
explained.
Okay, yeah, because sometimes, I mean, so for me, it's always, do I trust this person to tell me the truth? That's for me personally.
Mhm.
And then under, the circumstances might change, but, trust is also on a scale. I don't think I will ever trust another human being 100%.
That'd be foolish.
Right.
That would be.
Because neither you nor that person control all the parameters around any situation.
And we don't know until we're in the situation what we would
Right.
do.
That's right.
But I trust a lot of people, a lot, like 95% in terms of telling the truth.
I should say that I appreciated Carl's suggestion that we have to address the shortfall of mediation. And well, I was a little bit disappointed because maybe I wasn't explicit enough, but I was hoping that somebody would mediate the conflict between me and Dave Snowden. And essentially, nobody thought that mediation was a useful thing for them to step up to do.
Who would take it upon themselves to do that?
Probably a fool.
How many fools are there?
Well, this one.
And this is, I'm not going to mention any names, but if Colin was here, I was going to tell him about an example where he saw somebody do something not appropriate. Well, there was a person that other people out of a group without any kind of due process. And at that time, I did speak up. I wasn't the only one. I didn't get blocked, but other people got blocked for speaking up. And Colin still follows that person and reveres that person, and other people do as well, but none of those people spoke up. And they would have had more clout to speak up because they had more influence.
Yeah.
So we need people of influence to speak up also. I mean, that's what, Sam, you just did that for me today. That was an example when you came on and you said, well, whatever.
If I recall correctly, the incident you described, okay, then I believe I also did speak up multiple times and wanted to drive that issue to conclusion before I took unilateral action.
Yeah, I don't know if we're talking about the same thing.
Okay,
I don't think it's the same thing.
maybe not.
So we could talk offline.
Sam, if it's really the case that one would be a fool to step up to play the role of a mediator, then I'm not sure how we're going to arrive at any outcome when Carl proposes that we learn to become mediators. Because if it's really the case that one is a fool to become a mediator, then there's sort of an inherent, am I misreading?
I don't think that's the necessary logical conclusion. There are many transactions where two parties request a third party to be impartial. Escrow is one, right? Notarization is another, okay? There's a number of these things. So if two parties like you and Dave both say, we could benefit from a mediator, then I would think it would make sense for someone to, be invited and possibly accept that role. But short of being invited, that's not something anybody really wants to step into.
Yeah, the question is who could you invite who would be comfortable playing that role? And the answer is nobody I can think of, nobody you can think of.
if they're invited, it's different. I mean, I've
Yes.
played this role in different Facebook groups and it sucks. It really does, because what happens is when you are in the middle, you don't have any strong supporters on either side because you pissed everybody off by being in the middle.
Yeah, it's futile or
But I mean,
potentially futile.
again, I can do it in a Facebook group, big deal. What's gonna happen? They're not gonna like me? Oh, well.
Right.
Go
But
ahead.
maybe it is a futile exercise to try to mediate. I thought that one was mediatable, but maybe I'm just a damn fool and it can't be mediated.
I think every situation is mediatable, short of East-West conflict, sorry, Middle East conflict. Okay, short of that, I think
But like
almost
you-
everything else. is
Like you
mediatable.
said, both parties have to want that
Yes.
mediator. And if they don't, it can't work. And I
Right.
I think anybody would be a fool to try, which is why I didn't stay on the call with you and Colin that day.
So
Because it was
let
useless.
me understand, in proposing to play a role of a mediator, he decided at the last minute, no, this is not going to work. I don't want to mediate.
After I saw that, at least after I saw that both people weren't going to follow my rules of mediation, it wasn't worth it. Because it
I
was
wish I
just,
had known that. I wish I had known that and I would have
You did.
ended
You-
it right away.
well, you should have.
I should have, yeah, but I was a damn fool. I thought that, we could resolve it, and boy, was I wrong.
And I have to share though, both you and Colin said the same thing to me in terms of why didn't you end it earlier? You were trying to be polite,
Yeah.
which I found humorous.
Let me tell you something, listening to somebody for 7.5 hours is way, way beyond my ability.
I'm getting to the point that it's, if I already have something built up, like I haven't left everything at the door as Doug suggests, 5 minutes can be way beyond my ability.
It's about my limit. What's my Fowler's limit? 5 minutes? I can go maybe 15, and after that, it's just washing over.
But anyway, that's why I wanted this call, because I kind of wanted, there's a place for all of us, but the other people in the room have to want to hear what we're saying. And if somebody doesn't want to hear what I'm saying, why do I keep wanting to scream it at them? They're not interested. I'll be quiet. And like
You
I said,
ignore one person though, if all the others are interested in hearing.
absolutely, because, yes,
So don't let
absolutely.
one person's refusal, just because it's loud, represent the entire group.
That's true. What I'm really speaking to is when one person is repeatedly derailing a conversation in the same way for the same reason and
Yes.
commenting on everything that maybe that's not at least where I trust them on. But it's not just me. When I'm looking at the other faces, I see the same thing. That's why I put in the comments before we say something, not in this one, in the other call. I said, when we say something, before we say something, we should ask ourselves, why are we saying it? After we know why we're saying it, then we could
Because I
decide.
have to talk.
Say again, Sam, I missed it.
Because I have
to talk.
Because I have to talk, yeah.
and
I have
that's
to
the
hear the
thing.
sound of my own voice.
And that's a smart people problem that really I think
It's
needs
a
to
dumb
be.
people problem.
I agree with Sam. It's a dumb people problem.
It's a problem that smart people
It's a
have when
people
their
problem.
dumb side is showing. But again, it's like we have to address it, and it's a hard thing to do
Yes.
because it's insulting to people. People get offended by it.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Sam.
And this is why we talk about it here and Saturday, primarily Saturday, okay? Because if you talk about global challenges, people are all over the globe.
Yeah.
This problem is everywhere.
Yes, yes.
If we
And
solve
that-
this problem, imagine what would happen to all the other problems.
Can't
This is
solve it
Exactly.
globally. You're not going to solve it globally.
This
But
is
that's
why
go ahead.
we have to solve it locally.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Okay?
Think globally, solve problems.
That's why the
locally.
COI is all about personal practices. It's not about what I want you to do. It's not about my great idea. It's not about my great, art that I want to build. It's about personal practices. And if we can actually just get into interactions like this differently, because we're growing up or learning or more aware or more conscious or more empathic or more able to model other people's thinking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That would change the world. Not because I got, the latest, greatest, technology.
Well,
That will also, but
So should I just walk away from Dave Snowden and consider him not worth trying to have a conversation with? I just walk away? Is that my
that's
best
up to you.
practice?
I don't know Dave real well. It's up to you though.
Yeah, well, I don't know him real well either. I only knew that he was collaborating with Nora on the warm data and sense making project.
But whatever you do, Barry, I will say, people will notice. If you engage, people will see it. If you don't engage, if you disengage, people will also see that.
Okay, I get that part, but then what do I make of that?
Exactly. That's
I
up
don't know what
to
to
you.
make of it.
This is how you get to create the future, Barry.
before this point gets lost, I just want to add to what Sam was saying before, because this is important. That's why I rejected when Carl said that me and Colin should take this offline. I totally disagree. For what you said, we need to have it recorded. We need to be able to watch it and think about it and talk about it.
Exactly.
Postmortem, yeah.
Exactly.
And the other thing I wanted to say is, so COI, Community of Impact, which I don't really know too much about, but my question would be, why don't we have a Zoom call that's just for that, like designated for that? Because that's where somebody like me should be. I don't need to be frustrating people like Colin or other people. I don't need to be frustrating them because I'm trying to do something that doesn't on a Trello board. Put me in a COI room. Let me talk to those people. That doesn't mean we still can't all get together on Sunday for unblocking and be friends, but we all do not belong in the same conversation.
Yep.
I agree with that.
That's
Although
why
I
say,
would say I like the door to be open so that every the right to listen in.
Yes.
But that's also why I said to Carl, maybe he would want to do a fishbowl thing where he picks the people he wants to demonstrate, because then you could weed out the people that you know are going to lead, they're going to derail it. But you don't kick them out, but you just don't give them speaking privilege.
That's the podcast model. We have 2 or 3 people on a panel or 4 people on a panel. They do a 1-hour podcast, they publish it. Maybe they allow comments in the YouTube, maybe they turn off comments, but the actual conversation is a panel. It's recorded.
Yeah. But I do like the interaction that we have on the Zoom calls. I mean, there's a level of intimacy that I think is important to building society.
Yeah.
also
Me, we'd
note,
like to be able to ask questions. Sorry, Sam, go ahead.
sorry, I interrupted you, but I was
Just-
going to say,
Okay.
go ahead.
I just thought that in these panels, it would be nice to be able to put a question into the question queue so they could address the question in the panel.
Yes, I agree.
And if they don't address the question, that's an important response.
Yes.
When I asked ARPCOM, was that due process, they expressly declined to answer the question.
Yep.
That was an important answer.
Yep.
We're not going to touch that question.
That's why I love having these sessions recorded, because only then can you really note this kind of behavior.
Yeah.
Okay. People's
Yeah.
extractions in notes are the way they see things. Okay. But the actual quote unquote real event is not captured in handwritten notes. It's only
No.
captured by, let's say, video like this. Okay,
Right.
where people can then go back and say, geez, did somebody interrupt Stacy 17 times in a row, even though they were being notified that they were interrupting Stacy? What is that all about?
Yeah, that's warm data. That's a lot of warm
All
data.
data is warm data.
Well, the stuff that I was talking about was literally 14 years old, so I don't know if it's still warm.
All data is warm data.
All right, I'll accept that
The
definition.
last thing I want to say was, notice what happens when 3 people get together. It's
It's
a very
much-
different dynamic in 3 versus 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 or more. Okay. I still think 3s are the most enjoyable interaction.
You're right. I think you're right. Yeah.
Although I have to say, I've been in calls with 6 or even 9 people where it just flowed beautifully.
Can work. I'm
It
just
can.
saying, I'm just saying something structurally different happens in threes.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
the stuff that happens in larger numbers, usually requires more alignment and more understanding of protocols and practices.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
can't just get
rehearse.
random people together in groups of 9 and really expect this kind of interaction.
No. But this was a very interesting call because of the way the emotions, they just were like all
That
over the place.
startled the hell out of me. I had no idea he had that much anger going back.
But you've done that.
But you've always asked me, am I
You went
acting?
to 14, Barry.
Stacy figured it out. That
Twice.
was on purpose. Yeah,
If not
no,
more.
I think, did I say 5 or I can't
Don't be so
remember.
proud of it, Barry.
I was acting, and Stacy knew I was acting.
But you also weren't hurting anybody. Like, I don't think anybody was being hurt.
Well, that was not my intention.
Right. And if you could have made, if you felt you could have made your point by coming in with less intensity, I think you would have.
Yeah. Maybe if I went to 11, actually I didn't really go to 11. I really went to like 12 or something. I was exaggerating. 11 is like something like 12 dB. I can't go that high.
Well, it's like I said on the other call when I brought up Chef Ramsay. Somebody could be frustrated. Maybe his whole shipment didn't come through and all these horrible, we don't know, he employs so many people, what's on his shoulders, blah, blah, blah. That still doesn't give him a right to demean and belittle and hurt other people who often try to hold it in.
Yeah, and I didn't. I mean, I felt belittled from Dave, and I held it in. Maybe that was a
So what
mistake.
gives Ramsey the right? Ratings.
What is it? Ratings.
Ratings.
Well, but that's
for
where I
ratings.
was, but that's where I was saying that that's our fault.
Yes,
Because-
absolutely. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
But we
and-
do it to ourselves. We have what we created. We have what we asked for. We asked to, worship celebrities like Kardashians. This is what we get. We get them instead of Carl Sagan.
Yeah.
We get what we asked for
Yeah,
because we're stupid.
and fools.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that we're stupid or fools, but for some reason, and we've hit on it, it is very difficult for us to see our own behavior in
We
a
don't want to
way.
call it stupidity.
Say it again.
It's because we don't want to call it stupidity. It is stupid, but we don't want to call it that.
I had no idea that if I asked ARBCOM, was that due process, that would have been off-putting to them. Never occurred to me that would be off-putting to them until after I found out why it was off-putting. That we don't want to answer that question. Don't ask us why.
I think some people would have thought that would have been off-putting.
Well, Sam Corn, who was a former ARBCOM member.
Anyway, Stacy, we've interrupted you a lot. Sorry.
I just want to say one thing. I think it's important that we, instead of saying it's stupidity, it's a lack of awareness. And I don't think we should judge that lack of awareness as harshly as we do. Although when we're purposely, well, because this goes to the whole, for example, I think Colin has a lack of awareness, and I was just attempting, or I wanted to attempt, to bring some of that awareness in. And yes, as the person, there are many of us that's really hard for us because there's like an embarrassment, or I'll speak for myself. Sometimes when I see something in myself because somebody's brought it to my attention, and it's something that I may not be very proud of because I know that I wouldn't like it in somebody else. And now I'm saying, oh, shoot, I was doing that. It causes a lot of things to churn up. And most people, and this is where I am different because I really worked hard to exercise this and not do it, to make themselves feel more comfortable, they rather just push it back. Not enough of us have gained that ability to be able to take it and say, that's okay. And I'm human. And I didn't mean anything bad by it. And I'm still lovable and all those other, warm, squishy words. And that's why it depends who's giving you the message. And unfortunately, when we hold in at what we have to say for so long, by the time we get it out, it usually has such a force behind it that it does hurt the other person. because it's not just the point, it's all your baggage along with the point.
Yeah. Because it's been building up over time.
Right. That, and I have to just say, in my dream, you know, if you have like this dream of what I realized the perfect situation for me to have is to be invited to speak to the most obnoxious people and be able to tell them what I think about them on the air. Like, I would love to be able to like sit across from Donald Trump in an interview and just be very civil with him, or Chef Ramsay. I'm not saying anything bad about them, but I would love to. The people I would most like to call on their own shit are the people that other people aren't going to really feel bad for them. Other people are going to say, wow, it's about time somebody said this.
Yeah.
But you don't want to do that to like the underdog, because they're the low hanging fruit.
Sam's hand is up, but he's.
Yeah. I would like to answer your question about whether it really is stupidity. Yeah, I think this is a difference between, you know, not knowing or not being aware of something versus knowing and being aware and still choosing.
Yeah.
Okay, this is stupidity. The other is ignorance or unawareness. And there is a difference.
Yeah,
If it's a conscious choice, if it's an intention,
Well, I think
not
that's
look
what
at
goes-
awareness, you know, to not be aware, to not be acknowledging fact, not be sensitive to other people's input. Yeah, I would say that's about as good a definition of stupidity as I could think of. So I will say it is appropriate to use the word stupid in this example.
I don't know, because I don't know that the person acting stupid is really getting it. Like, I think that what's happening is that their ego or whatever, it's hard to look at themselves and say, oh, you're right, I was looking for a fight there. It's a hard thing to do. And I don't know that it's stupidity, but maybe a fear. There's like a core fear in there of, yeah, there's, you know, I'll be attacked for having done the wrong thing, or yeah. I don't want to, you know, I will make one generalization. Those of us that were really criticized as children and felt made, and sensitive people that learned to put shells on, it's really difficult for them, especially when they're male. I think it's easier for females, but especially when they're male, it's really hard to break those shields because it's protecting them from all this pain of feeling.
Feeling inadequate, insecure.
Not even that, like, so, okay, so when I came on and I told you guys how bruised I felt inside over today's interaction,
Mhm.
that took courage to say that, to admit that. That was not easy. That was not easy to say, but I feel comfortable with both of you, and I don't deal with the audience because they'll think whatever they're going to think. But now for a man to do that and to choke up, that would be harder on him. He's going to face it. It's, you know, I can get away with the fact, oh, she's a sensitive woman. It's harder in our society for a man, or even a woman in business. Women in business have to take on that male persona.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are people rebelling against that now, and that's good. And, you know, there are men that are working to change that system as well, but we're all socialized by it.
Trick is how to be a rebel and get away with it. Sam.
So I was just about to say something at the moment that you disclosed how you felt bruised by that previous conversation. I was about to say, Stacy, I really appreciate you staying here and really still being part of this conversation. You are not safe in many interactions here, and yet you still show up. Many people who get the kind of treatment you get, and others may have also, don't come back.
Yeah.
And that's why I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
I really do.
Yeah. Attrition.
And it's not just because you're tough. It's because you represent a set of thoughts, a mindset that I think, you know, I really align with. And I think you and I have had that conversation before. And I would like to see, you know, shared more widely. And it's an understanding of what we're doing here, which also is uncommon.
Yeah. Knowing when to stick it out, when
I
to walk
appreciate you
away.
being here.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And when you say I think Barry just said, how do we make it, I forgot how you worded it,
How
but
can you be a rebel and get away with it?
I think we have to cultivate a society where it's okay to do that. And
And I
that's,
think
you
it's in
know,
the arts. I think you have to move out of academia and into the arts to be a rebel in a socially acceptable way. And you have to disguise it all in terms of artistic presentations. And all.
I don't know that I agree with that, because like, I really appreciate what Sam just said to me. And that's because we're not in the arts right now, but I've made a conscious choice. I know that it's important to say what I say. I know that I'm probably going to get smacked, but I can't help it. That's my role. Like, I really do believe that
Right.
I've made a conscious decision to speak my truth.
Right. I think you would feel better about speaking your truth and getting smacked than not speaking your truth and feeling like you betrayed yourself in that thought.
Yeah.
Well, I feel even better when I hear people like you say it's appreciated. You know, there are other places where I won't, but I'll go, and that's when I'll do what Barry says, where I'll go and I'll write about it, so I can at least share the experience with other people that it might help, because they felt that way too.
Right.
But in terms of where I actually spend my time and interact, we talked about like I look for the trust thing, and that people are coming from a place of love. And there are certain groups that I don't go in because there are not that if there's one person that's not good, but if there's too many people that are willing to exert power over, I don't want to waste my time, because it's not worth it. It's not worth the pain.
Too many assholes.
I mean, I even know more recent examples. It doesn't go unnoticed. For example, the Tyra was here for a while and then it no longer is here frequently.
Which one? There's two, Tira and Tyra. Which one?
I'm talking about
He
Tyra.
means Burning Bee. He means Burning Bee.
Burning Bee. Okay, yeah, she has been absent for a couple of months.
And then I also know that there's another person who feels very strongly about being heard, who came briefly and doesn't come very often anymore. That's Baby. And
She
even
hasn't
before
been
that,
here since I've been here.
Yeah, I've never been in a cult.
I started a year ago and she already was gone.
yeah, and even before that, Tammy. But she
Tammy was gone before I was here.
You know,
A lot of people.
yeah. So in light of all that, we have to examine what happens here and why people get pushed away. And if we here don't see the behavior that does push people away, we're our own damn fault.
Yeah, I'll certainly agree with that. I'd like to know what the cause of attrition is. We don't do exit interviews. At least I don't think we do. Do we do
We
exit
should.
interviews?
There's nothing to exit from.
No, no, but he's got a good point. Like you
I
just
know,
mentioned.
I
a few
know.
people.
But I'm making
And-
another point.
And I could say they didn't all disappear for the same reasons.
That's why you need to do an exit interview. You can't just guess.
I mean, there's
Wasn't getting
similarities.
paid enough.
What's the name of the pain?
Anyway, this was good. This was good. And yeah, I really, you know, the whole community of impact, which again, I know what it means, but I wonder if that shouldn't be like a total track of calls that are related to that. That's where we could look at, like, so for example, when Barry was talking, when he said, I want to go back to that Six Hats call, I wouldn't, if my purpose was to learn what the Six Hats were, I would not watch that call.
Because I won't learn.
If my purpose was to locate where things go off the rail from their origin, then I would watch the call. But that's a different conversation for different people. And frankly, there are certain people, I don't care what their opinions are about because I don't like, I don't want to hear it because it doesn't mean anything for me. It's not going to help me.
Not a source of reliable or useful information.
No. And I don't think we should keep pretending to be polite over that. You know, politeness, I want to be polite, but there comes a point where it's just enabling behavior.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
agree. Yeah.
Yes.
How to be diplomatic, how to tell somebody how to go to hell in a way that they're looking forward to the trip.
Well, you know,
it's sad.
and this, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say there really does need to be levels of mastery to actually be able to contribute verbally. Well, but this is also what I think should happen in larger systems.
That's right.
Like a judge should not be able to be a judge unless they pass a certain test.
Yeah, like not raping people.
Not
And then
raping
also being the
people, but-
plaintiff and the prosecutor and the jury at the same time.
Well, and being able to, you know, I mean, and that's where, like, I think Carl had put in the, I don't know who put it in the chat in the other call. Can we trust someone who's anonymous? And I put, yes, if there's consistency. I could be
And if
talking
it's
to a
verifiable.
bot. Well, but what I'm saying is if I'm talking to a bot and I don't know it, but every time the bot, the values don't seem to change. Like I'm not surprised by the answers they give me. There's a certain consistency of thought. I have trust in that thought. I mean, I remember watching I used to watch soap operas, which I learned a lot about people from. But I remember after many years, this character did something so out of character. And I was like, whoa, they had to have changed the writers and they don't know Vicky because Vicky would never do that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a problem. You have to know the
Who's her
backstory.
long lost twin sister?
No, it was, I don't
Yeah, the
even
evil
remember.
twin, right? The evil twin character.
Right.
That's a famous trope. Throw in the evil twin.
No, but this
It's
brings
all
up
a
a,
dream. That's another
but
one.
here's another point, and that I'll just make, it's totally unrelated, but we really have to look at those moments when people are out of character and take a closer look,
Yes.
not decide one way or another,
Yeah.
but take a closer look because maybe they're actually revealing something that really is their character.
Yeah, you don't see character unless you see stress.
Well, it's
Correct.
like when you say, you know, the story about, you know, if you go on a date, you look at how your date treats the server,
Yeah.
because that gives you a better indication of who they are
Yep.
than how they are when they're speaking with you.
Yeah.
Hiding your foibles in your
Right,
flaws.
we solve the problems of the world.
Okay.
I'm good for today.
If I may, for one more point, Stacy, you made one point about, oh man. It's gonna save it for later.
You'll think of it as soon as we hang up.
I forgot as soon as I said one more thing.
Just
Well,
one more
maybe-
thing.
I don't know if this will help you remember, but in the meanwhile, what I think would be interesting to do is to come to a call, like there might be a certain question that I want Barry's opinion on. What would that question be? Certain question that I want Sam's opinion on. What would that question be? It would be interesting to then look at all the questions Barry gets, to look at all the questions Sam gets, and whoever. I think that's useful for the person too. I mean, most of us love giving our opinion, and I don't want to take that away. I want people to be able to give their opinion, but let them give their opinion in areas that people actually want to hear what they have to say. I want people to ask me what they really want my opinion for. They don't want my opinion. How's your day? Who cares? Not who cares, but that's what Jaswinder was always getting to. You know, stop the small talk. What is it you really want to know? Say what you really want to know from that person, and then let that person tell you.
For the record, I've heard you make this request before and I completely grok it. Okay.
You grok it, not block. Is that what you said? You grok it?
Not block. I grok.
Grok.
it.
Okay. Sometimes I'm not sure which syllable I got.
Yeah, I wish we
Okay.
had more playtime, you know, where we,
Well, this is why I want people to visit. Okay. So we can actually see the island, go look at the view, go sit out there by the fire pit, cook dinner together, have meals together, you know.
let me tell you, if I didn't have Marley, I'd be there. I'd be there. Massachusetts, I might make it. Marley would be coming with me if I go to visit you, Barry, though.
By the way,
That I could drive, though.
for the record, I think Kayla's planning on coming back to visit me again in
Oh,
November.
Very nice.
I take it that was a fun gathering.
Well, you know, they went primarily to the Olympic Peninsula. They went to Seattle. They went and saw a bunch of stuff, you know, so we only had one meal together. But I said next time she comes, you know, she's got to come here and see the island. So she agreed to do that. And
Got a
although
dog
I hope
too.
it doesn't jinx the thing, she's trying to convince Tyra to come also.
Well, once you start traveling again, because we were making plans at the time, you know, I was waiting for you to have to be in the Northeast, because then I was like, we could all, you know, we could rent out a big place and a few people if you're only a few hours from
Yeah.
everybody. I would love to do. I mean,
Yeah, by the way, my brother lives in Tacoma Park, Maryland.
oh, that's close enough. I could drive that far.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go cut my brisket now. I gotta
Well,
send me
slice it.
some. Can I send you a styrofoam box and you send me some?
This is the one thing that people really like that I cook. This is, I don't cook a lot, but my brisket is something I get
Okay,
requests.
my
for.
request then is when you visit, I'll give you
Right.
responsibility for preparing brisket one time.
I will do. I will do.
Okay.
If I could
I
use
will
your
not forget that, okay? I will not forget that. I take my food seriously, okay?
Oh, so I take my food seriously.
And I take my feud seriously.
And with that, I think I'll go off and find some food.
Goodbye.
All right,
Thank
it was
you.
fun, guys. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.